We should be up on both. Hang on.
and welcome back to another episode of Hopeful Resistance. We are live streaming yet again, and we are pretty excited to have you here joining us, whether you are joining us live or whether you are joining us after the fact. We are here, Aaron and I. I'm Sarah. This is my son, Aaron,
Hi.
who will say hello.
This is
Join
also
us.
it's also new. I'm just trying to make sure everything's going smoothly.
He's not only co-host, he is also our engineer, so he's doing all the technical things. Aaron and I have had weekly discussions for a long time, and months ago we said, as part of our resistance, why don't we record these? So that's what we're doing. We have these talks, and we're here to talk about how to be hopeful and the batshit craziness of what's going on in the US right now. But we're also here to remind you of peaceful actions. We're not pundits, so to speak, but we do want to reframe some of the things that you may be seeing or hearing and point out some of the fallacies in logic or where to go to get good information. So that's what we do. And every week, Aaron has the luxury or privilege or curse, however
Curse.
you
I
want
think
to
it's
look at that.
probably cursed this week.
It's a curse, but to decide what we talk about. And quite frankly, there are
So many
many things.
things.
So
It's crazy.
what's up on the menu?
So, I mean, where to begin? Like you just said, so many things. We could talk about the LA protest. We could talk about I mean that's probably the big
To be
topic.
fair,
There was
we had actually talked about discussing why community activism matters.
right,
And I would love to actually frame a little bit of that. What's happening in LA would have gone dramatically different if people had voted differently for the police chief and for the mayor of LA.
right,
And so I think it's a perfect example. I mean, a boots to the ground example of why what happens in your community matters. How you vote for city council and how you vote for mayor and how you vote for your police chief, if that is how things are done,
right.
matters. It absolutely matters. So I think we should talk, Matt, why don't we talk about the thing that we had our little discussion about and almost a misunderstanding, but
Yeah.
not quite, about the ridiculousness of the National Guard being called in.
Yeah, so I and for our viewers, if you don't know, the National Guard can be used for riot control. It hasn't been used for riot control, I think, since the LA riots. Which if I had to go back and look at the destruction and death toll of the LA riots, what's currently happening right now in LA is not even a blip on that radar. So so what we're looking at right now is way different than the LA riots because they were much crazier.
Well, and I also think it's important that we talk about I am open to being wrong, and certainly our viewers, listeners are more than happy to correct me. But my understanding is all this started when ICE went to a courthouse to detain some folks coming out of immigration court and took them into the basement and detained them overnight with no due process. And it just escalated from there. I am not familiar. The only little bit of violence that I know about is the Home Depot vehicle. I don't know the backstory on that. What about you?
No, not off the top of my head. No, I was staying more up, I guess, more involved on where things escalated to than where things started, because what I found interesting was, the normal go-to argument that they love to do is they love to say, the administration loves to say, that these are they're hired protesters, which I think is such an interesting notion this time because there were people in business suits, there were people in everyday clothing.
Like some lady carrying a dog.
It looked like it was people that were just walking down the street in LA, saw what was happening, and they were like, "Oh fuck no."
You would almost expect, this is the funny thing to me, you would almost expect if they're being paid, they're going to look like extras in a movie.
Right.
They're all going to just be kind of hanging out. But the guy with the briefcase, the
Yeah.
woman with the dog, somebody had an umbrella, somebody's carrying. You couldn't stage this.
Yeah.
These were people who saw something happening, and this is the America I want to live in.
Right.
Know that it seems scary. One of the conversations that I've had with a friend lately is, of course, it seems scary that there are people in the United States being facing the National Guard over peaceful protests, relatively peaceful protests, and we have to be scared about this free speech and this kind of thing.
Right. Because the thing that makes it, I guess, crazy in my mind is that they're trying to claim that it's a riot and that things are out of control, and then you go and like look at the statistics, and it was something like, what, 5 people were arrested by ICE for disorderly conduct, and then like one person, I think, only one person was injured and 2 officers, and the officers were basically released almost immediately.
Yes. Now, I
Like,
will say,
and there was like the burning car, which, but I mean,
yeah, I'm actually I was shocked that you didn't know, because you are like normally right on top of all of
yeah.
it. So I just looked it up, and apparently there was a federal agents, ICE and Border Patrol had gathered in front of a Home Depot. Protesters were trying to keep them from going into the Home Depot.
So this is the story that I had heard, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say, oh, this is what I think, because it seemed like, yeah, it seemed like you had more like that, because I hadn't even heard about someone in the courthouse being detained. I had only heard about the Home Depot incident, so I thought I was way off the mark.
What I cared about, and what I think anybody needs to care about, is we've got to ask better questions.
Right.
Started it. And as best as I can tell, and again, I'm open to being wrong, it started when ICE agents were detained. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Where are all the criminals? They're not hanging out at immigration court. The criminals are not hanging out at Home Depot, for fuck's sake.
What was that thing I replied to you when you were talking about this, where I was like, that these illegal immigrants are somehow stealing all of the jobs, doing a bunch of crime, and are so lazy that they're receiving welfare. I'm like, that's a busy day.
Right. While they're at, talking about family values, they're getting them in church. They're getting them out of their kids' graduation. I mean, anyway, so around 4 p.m. yesterday, the standoff became declared an unlawful assembly. And so at this point, some people feel backed in a corner. They feel like they have to do something. So protesters, and I don't agree with this. I think I want to be super clear. If we want to win, we have to go right up to the line. But I think crossing the line and violence or setting things on fire, breaking things, I don't see that as productive.
Right.
But they set fire to a Hyundai, like, that's important information, right?
Yeah.
No, so
we need to know what car, because if it was a Tesla, that would have been fine, but if it's a Hyundai, not okay.
Anyway, the flames were part of the part of the protest. So that's all I got right there. So where we are right now, I don't want to say arguing. You've been arguing, I've been debating.
Yeah.
People who are, as a matter of fact, I made notes because I think it's really important. There was a gentleman, I'm using that word super loosely, who was making the claim. I gotta find it
Real quick.
Okay.
Hey, Kat, you're welcome. We had a chatter. We had a chatter, so I wanted to know that their chat was seen.
Hello, it's my buddy. Hello, yay! Oh, you already said hello.
Oh, oh no, you did.
You probably said hello on your page.
No, I didn't. I didn't type anything.
Oh.
If you typed it, if you typed it, that's why it shows up in the chat.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well,
We're
hello,
again.
Kat.
This is like the second time we've ever done this.
Listen, we're new to this, so be gentle. Anyway, so this ass hat. Oh my God, I saw the funniest thing. Asset. Somebody said somebody called me an asset to the company today. They pronounced it ass hat, but I think
Okay,
it
grab it and
was.
go.
I think it was their what do you call it? It was their oh my God accent. It was their accent. So
Gotcha. If I'm just I heard
generally, with 4 kids, you get a buy on that one,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Especially because they don't normally come in here.
this-
So
yeah, so this guy who was not an asshat, he was an ass hat, came in and said that Trump needs to arrest Gavin Newsom for getting in the way of a completely legal action by ICE. And I think that the thing is so important to say is that this is so misinformed because it's a misunderstanding of both the law and the Constitution. So I think we also have to remember that ICE has set this benchmark for arresting the wrong people, skipping due process, behaving in ways that are unacceptable for law enforcement or immigration enforcement or anything like that. And so I think we have to remember that the law, if you want to claim, most of the people who are going to be saying that these mayors and the governor should be arrested are all about we are a constitutional republic,
okay,
right?
go ahead.
In a constitutional republic, and I made a note about this, that's not how the law works.
Right.
Disagreeing with federal immigration policy is not a crime. It's called federalism, and it is protected by the 10th Amendment.
Yes.
And so we can't. We have to know these things.
Yeah.
This is the important
Well,
part.
Next
when
time
we
you hear
talk about saying stuff like that.
yeah, and next time you hear someone, I agree with everything you said. Next time you hear someone say constitutional republic, feel free to point out to them that you can be a constitutional republic and a democracy simultaneously.
Right? I
like,
can't tell you the number of times I've had to post.
Yeah. Like a democracy is a government of the people, and a constitutional republic is a representative body that enacts laws. Like it's just that could be the same thing.
And I think this is the important thing to remember. These are difficult times, and we are going to be faced with a lot of people who are spouting talking points, and I hate to say faux news, but they're faux news, Fox News talking points. One of the other things that this person was talking about was oh gosh, what was the other thing? Talking about he listed a law, and these are bad faith arguments when people are quoting the law. First of all, non-lawyers are quoting the law,
right?
And unauthorized entry into the United States can be a misdemeanor or felony, but not all undocumented immigrants came here legally. One of the biggest things that we've been seeing, and I know it's playing out in California as well, is people overstay their visa, or in some of these cases with the batshit craziness going on, their visas are revoked and they don't know. Yes,
that was actually that was some of the initial arguments that came up a lot whenever Biden was president, right? And that's whenever I learned that is like what you said. That's the most common way that you have illegal immigrants.
The most common way.
And it doesn't mean that there's not people crossing over the border. I do know that based on statistics that most of the people crossing over the border though are seeking asylum.
100%.
In most cases.
I would argue with anybody who hates immigrants so much. Oh, Kat says she's our guinea pig for live chat.
Sweet.
Sorry. I just noticed this.
Yeah.
Yay!
And we should note there is a bit of a delay between us talking and then us seeing chat. So
right.
Yeah. Okay.
We're doing the
and it's only because it can only get there so fast after there's a lot of tech, but with the encoding of the video and all that, and then it being actually cast out to the stream, there's just a delay.
We're in two different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And we're live streaming. I'm certainly happy with all this. Okay, so we were talking about ICE. We were talking about the immigration officials and the laziness that, in my mind, the laziness that they're exhibiting, they're not picking up criminals, people. If they were picking up criminals, they'd be picking them up in criminal places
Right. But
at the
they're
immigration.
and their argument would be that they are criminals because they entered the United States illegally, right?
But they're
That's their
going through the
crime,
process. I
right?
mean,
I mean,
let's be
yeah,
you
it's just
hire a felon, you hire a felon for your president. You don't get to talk to me
no.
about
See, oh, thank you. Yes, that is the one thing that
we're
angers
done.
me to every argument I hear about it is they'll say law and order, and I'm like, we have a convicted felon as our president. You don't get to say that. Like, you don't get to
You don't,
claim
you don't even,
that.
just not even get to say that. So here are some other arguments that you know, if you're watching or listening, that you're going to hear. I saw this guy was talking about aid and comfort. You know, go read the Constitution, because you know, you can't be out providing aid and comfort to these illegal immigrants because you know, that's just some kind of criminal offense. These sanctuary cities are criminal,
Right.
and so this does not apply to local government, folks, and it certainly doesn't apply. It has a legal aid and comfort has a legal meaning when we're talking about treason, but
Right.
not when we're talking about immigration.
Well, yes,
And
and especially
what those talking.
because, yeah, well, and especially because the courts had already ruled that so because their argument there is that that they're aiding the enemy because Trump is trying to use the Alien Enemies Act. So that yeah, it's like totally disconnected from how any of this actually works.
Not, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like what was that, the Princess Bride? I don't think
That means what you think it means. Yes.
right.
One other thing I wanted to say earlier is, I mean, even with all that, I guess what I'm most frustrated about is the way that that everything is just being escalated, right? Like this, like, yeah, people, they, you know, and this goes all the way back to whenever what's his name, Abuelo Garcia was illegally deported, right?
Right.
It's like it goes all the way back to that. Like, and look, I look at this. If Trump had done it the way that even you and I have said, if he had gone through the due process part of the deportation, it would be much harder to argue against the deportations. But he's not doing that. So what we're seeing is ICE agents pick people up. We've seen that somebody was deported illegally. So now the citizens don't trust the process. So now they're going to be resisting the federal agents. The federal agents are escalating to try and get the job done. Trump sees the escalation and calls in the National Guard. And it's just like these constantly rising tensions.
Remember, this is his modus operandi, over and over. Create the crisis, and then I'm not kidding. The tweet went out that the National Guard had bombed the riots,
And they weren't
even there. I mean,
there.
BBC, bless their heart, BBC was live streaming it.
Mm-hmm.
They were not there yet when that announcement was made, and so one of the things, there's another thing I wanted that I thought was like super important to talk about was that there's this confusion about this. I mean, we talk about the separation of church and state all the time, but there's a separation of state and federal. And I want to read this because I did some research.
Right.
Federal government cannot compel states to enforce federal law. This was upheld by a Supreme Court decision in 1997. And the decision was actually written by Justice Scalia. So, I mean, I think it's really important that people understand that you can't have it both ways, that the states are going to decide this and that. Oh, no, wait. The states aren't going to decide this or that.
Right. I mean, it's definitely it's a failure to understand that, like, the way our country is initially constructed is that we are supposed to be a series of states that are all basically like existing like together, right? Like the federal government. Go ahead.
Together. Independently together.
Right.
We're benefiting from, you know, everybody pays taxes into the main government. The main government handles the big things. It's kind of like living in a city that has suburbs. You know, each little suburb is you know,
they're managing and or each city within a state is managed
like Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
You've got Dallas. I mean, All so many
There's
things.
so many things.
So one of the other things that I did want to talk about, we have to address talking points. One of the things that I see coming up on these conversations that I'm having online is that, oh, you Democrats just want to have open borders. No.
Yeah, I don't think
And
I want to know which Democrat put that policy up, because I just want to.
it's a fucking stupid talking point is what it is.
It
And
is.
it's just like what do they call that? It's like catfishing. You know, you're just throwing out this bait trying to get the other person that you're talking to pissed off. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to look at that statement and say, yeah, pretty much no, we don't want open borders, but we do want respect for the processes.
Right. And that's the thing too. I mean, I haven't heard a single a political influencers. I haven't seen. So I haven't. Sorry, I was gonna say my brain overloaded. I haven't seen influencers. I haven't seen any politicians. Yes,
Many
I haven't seen anyone with any monicum of like power or influence say we want open borders.
You're
No
not
one.
gonna.
No one
What we
says
want
that.
is sane, logical. You know, what's happening right now is absolutely not logical. I would like 10% of the money that's been wasted on the legal proceedings, on the
Yes,
shipping
rage
people
baiting.
out and having to ship them back. Um, Rage baiting. I mean,
Yeah. That's what I saw.
oh, right?
Yeah, like 100. Yeah.
And so these are the things. And so what do you say? I mean, here's the thing. So when people claim that Democrats want open borders, prove it, prove it, prove it.
Well, and
How
yeah,
many?
their proof would be, because like I think it was, oh my gosh, I think it was the actor James Wood on X posted a thing of Biden talking about how people are searching for the border and we need to be putting them through the process to get them, to decide if they are here legally or not, right? That we need to find a way to streamline and speed up that process. And then he posted just a clip from it that's just like, yeah, the people are surging at the border and we need to let them in and get them through the process. And he goes, this is Biden encouraging, allowing all the people into the country. And I was like, this is such a disingenuous way to say,
Well,
to call
that's the
what
only
this
way,
is.
that's the only way that they're going to get it to be said.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do? I think we have to come up with some. I mean, this is a super tense time in the world, and you've got a lot of dumb shit going on. And you and I have just in the last 24 hours run into a lot of nutty people who are saying, the liberals are burning down LA to save the illegal immigrants. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that when people say, you want open borders, look, no, I think as a matter of fact, if the Republicans and the MAGA truly believed in law and order, they're going to want due process. And if they are the party of family values and Christian values and all that, they're going to want humane treatment.
Well, what I find so insane too, and this is so like this is kind of retrograde, like, but if they were so concerned about the border and keeping people from crossing over the border, why did they follow Trump whenever he said, "Oh, shoot down the bipartisan border bill that Biden put up"?
Well, this is
I mean, that's again, it's just like
the world
they.
will know.
Well, I think the answer is actually a little more like in our face. It's because it's not about the borders. It's about the immigrants that are coming in and what they look like. It's a racial issue.
This is a completely racial issue. It is completely, but again, what do we do about it? I think that it's super
Yes.
easy to say that there's a few things. If you're in LA, you need to be carrying an American flag and not any other flag, because visually the optics are important. And I think that people who do see things on the news need to see that it's protesters carrying American flags who are being tear gassed. Because if you're a protester carrying a Mexican flag or any other flag besides an American flag, you're going to be watering down the visual that, oh, it's those stinking immigrants that were, that they're rebelling in some way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and well, and I agree in part. Like, I think in my opinion, it would be okay if it was both. The struggle, like if it was a mix of, for example, we've seen a lot of Mexican flags, and I think the El Salvadoran flag. I've been trying to take my flag quizzes. I only know so many, but
I know the
I
American flag and the Panama
yeah,
flag.
and so I think, but I would like to see more American flags. I think the struggle that we have sometimes is that we've allowed the right to basically take the American flag from true patriots, and
And
so
the word patriot.
yes,
I'm
and
gonna say patriot.
yes, and I think it's upsetting to me sometimes because I think, and I even think these people love our country. I think the problem is that the symbolism for loving our country has been basically hallmarked by the right to be like a hateful, tyrannical, like bigot, like, just not a good thing. And so, like, yeah, there are videos of people burning the American flag, but what we should be asking is, why are they doing that? What's driving them to decide to burn it instead of waving it around patriotically?
Yes,
Yeah.
and part of our democracy is that we can burn an American flag in protest.
No, and that's not even my problem. Like,
Yeah.
what I would like is if what we would do is, instead of burning it, we started waving it around and we started saying, no, we're the real patriots, not you. Like,
I don't disagree.
yeah.
I mean, but again, that requires. We've had this conversation almost every time we talk about these difficult topics. The reason that the right, aka Republicans, aka MAGA, aka anybody who's not liberal, I guess, the reason that they are in many ways stronger is because A, they're faster, B, they're united in purpose. They hate everyone that doesn't look like them.
Right.
And Democrats don't have this consistent leadership or messaging. We're collaborative. We try to communicate. We're cannibalizing each other for these purity tests.
Yeah.
I mean,
We've talked about all of that.
Ew. Oh.
Continue.
And,
Yeah. Continue to talk about all of it.
well, it's true. So
Yeah.
I know that today, of course, are the LA protests. We cannot call them riots.
Yeah.
They're not. They're protests, and anybody who's living there, um, can tell you that. And actually, Kat just said we are living with two polar opposite realities that are manipulated by algorithms and information that validates our values. And so, I mean, you think about it, people who don't dig deeper are going to believe that the National Guard came into LA and squashed those crazy liberal protests.
Yeah,
riots.
that's the all roads. You've heard me talk about that before. The all roads lead to Rome. Yeah. Trump says the sun's gonna come up at 8 a.m. and then it comes up at 8 a.m. and MAGA's like, oh my God, he did it.
Well, so what else shall we talk about today?
What was there? There was.
Wasn't there something else that happened this week?
I mean, there's something. So I actually we almost circled around to this, so I guess we can now. I do find the timing of these events to be of interesting. Yeah.
You know what? I hate that because it actually almost lends credence to the concept that they have strategy.
Well, and
stumbling around like idiots.
Well, I would say it's like this. I think that Trump is an idiot. I think he's running. We've talked about this before, that he's running it like a company, but he does have smart people that work for him.
I don't disagree. Certainly Hegseth is not one of them, nor the 20.
But like JD Vance is a scarily intelligent person.
JD Vance, and there's actually a few other people behind the scenes. I don't doubt that those are the ones that have a lot more influence.
Right.
And
they
no coincidence that this is happening the week before the big parade. It's no coincidence it's happening during Pride Month. It's no coincidence before it's happening no King's Day parade.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
That's it's the timing is impeccable, right? And especially because if you've been following, and I don't know how you can miss it because the media did not, no matter who it was, didn't stop talking about the big explosive breakup that we all knew was coming, and everything that came out from that, which, again, I think that's another thing that makes the timing like, okay, like
Well,
I'm
no,
not a conspiracy theorist, but it's really hard sometimes to like be like, okay, I'm like it's a little suspicious.
there was something I did a little research about that. Uh this Trump Musk thing, the debate that I engaged in uh with a couple of people this week was it real or was it staged? Now I'm going to tell you, from a behaviorist point of view, it was not staged, but these are professional narcissists. They are so used to blowing up and then turning that shit into Chardonnay. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I those two lost it. I think that they were having a girl,
Yeah.
as friends educated me, the girls are fighting
Yeah.
does not mean something ugly about women. It's a drag queen phrase
Oh
that,
yeah. Yeah.
oh, there's a lot of women. There were a ton of women that were mad about that it was
Oh.
misogynistic. Just, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's
I don't. I'm just a white guy. So when I saw it, my first thought was the drag queen reference, not the.
I I never ever once thought that it was about women, like
Yeah.
straight cis women. I thought it was drag queen talk. Anyway, point being, from a behavioral point of view, they were not playing, they were not kidding, they were mad at each other, they were saying shit, but they are professional narcissists and sociopaths, and they turn that around so quick. And I think it'll happen again, and it'll really be bad next time.
Yeah. Kat asked a question. Says, do you think that this will result in martial law this week? That is is a debatable question because martial law by definition is unconstitutional. So there's
That's a whole ball of wax, isn't
yeah,
it?
and it would be tough to say if Trump would try and
But
take
you
it.
understand the impetus for her question. This is what's playing out right now is not by the book, but pretty close by the book. Project 2025, and martial law is in Project 2025.
Right, because so it's I think it's going to depend on how well they're able to spin the narrative, which we've seen they are profoundly good at doing that. I
I
think
wish the
it's
Democrats were half as good as they
yeah,
are.
and I think so. The answer to the question is
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. It just depends. It depends on what happens today. I think the protests have already started up again. It depends on how peaceful the protests remain. It depends on how law enforcement chooses to engage with counter protest measures, right? Because I
Tell you
mean,
what I think. I think it will. I think whether by hook or crook or legitimate or not, there will be a circumstance that will either be manufactured, created, instigated to justify martial law for a super short period of time, perhaps. He's testing the fucking waters.
yes.
That's what LA is all about. He's testing the waters.
And it's really easy to do with LA because LA is notoriously blue. I mean, like,
He hates LA.
yeah,
I mean, I find the fact that he calls the governor by the wrong name, a derogatory name every single time, the most childish, uh,
yeah.
disrespectful, stupid. It makes him look bad.
But if you call Abbott Governor Hot Wheels, that is disgusting. But
It's just, you Democrats are supposed to be nice. I had somebody say to me, "You liberals are supposed to be nice," and I'm like, "No, I'm a good person. I'm not a nice person.
yeah,
Fuck."
yeah,
I am not finding that the okay, so Trump says the troops are in LA to law and order. Oh, here we go, live.
yeah.
Got
If
it on.
I know, so I know the New York Times is running a live stream right now. I know the BBC is running a live stream right now. If you want
Love
to,
Beatles.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
watching this live right now.
yeah. If you want to
Uh,
go, if anybody's watching you and you do want to go check it out, those are two sources I know that are there
ABC
live
is
right
the
now.
best. One of the things.
Oh, there's also a lot
Okay,
of TikTokers. There's a lot of there's I
you want
see
to
them all
see
over, yeah, all over Threads and all over X, talking about they're going to be live streaming on TikTok.
Yeah, if you want to see un totally pure, undiluted, un
Yeah.
anything. So Kat says, good questions. So if he does declare martial law, who can stop him? How quickly can they stop him? Will he leverage it so Congress passes the big beautiful bill? Okay, I am unclear about martial law and how that relates to the Congress and the big beautiful bill.
So if he enacts martial law, the we could say the courts could stop him, but the courts are slow. So that's why it would have to be for a short enough time. I think I understand her argument on would he use it to leverage the big beautiful bill, because he would say we need to get this bill passed so we can deal with this problem in California. So we need to quit fighting amongst ourselves, get this bill passed through, so that way we can take care of the lawlessness in California. Right? It's like a
Okay.
way to pull the other, because right now they could pass it, I think, without any Democrats.
I thought they were three short, or there were three
Yeah,
that were wrong.
yeah, I think it's four, but there's like five. I think it's yeah, but there's like five Republicans that said they're going to vote no unless they get certain provisions. So I think this is a way for him to try and push it through, basically to try and get everybody on board.
Okay, so I am watching the protest live right now.
Yeah.
I would just say to anybody, I'm not going to try and interpret. We're not pundits, so we're not going to try and interpret all this. But I would say go to BBC. That is the bomb, in my opinion, because they have a legal obligation to produce in their country. As far as I understand, they have a legal obligation to be fair, balanced, accurate, that kind of thing. And another thing, ABC. Are you following that? How ABC, one
Oh,
of their
yeah.
orders, and ABC caved, like, boom.
Yeah. Well, it's for
You,
me, it's probably this. It's probably the same reason that like Democrats sat on the Senate floor and held up signs. Like they're trying to avoid being they're trying to avoid being confrontational, right? Because I mean that's like we talked about how Democrats should. Sorry.
the win for ABC.
Do what?
What is the win for ABC?
Oh well.
I don't see it as being a win at all, unless is ABC funded by a MAGA support, Trump
I mean, off the top
supporter?
of my head, I don't know, but that's how I viewed it. Was like them trying to uh, basically just be all like, we're
Oh,
they might
Walt,
do that, but
Walt,
we don't do that.
Walt Disney.
Oh, okay. Actually,
Oh,
I could have flipping guessed that because they own freaking everything.
So yeah, ABC Cumulus. Well, it used. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, that explains it.
Yeah.
And then, but see, for me, the discussion is: do journalists have? For me, there's this tightrope. We want journalists to present the news. We don't like it when Fox News talks ugly about liberals, blah, blah. So here we have a guy saying that that Trump is the president is a world-class hater. Okay. Is that reporting? I mean, my question is, I'm not saying he's not. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm 100% in agreement with that. But if we want the news to be fair and balanced and unbiased, and we want people, if he believes that, then there's a better way to say it. Well, I have concerns about the current administration's uh, loathing of whatever. But when we let journalists, not news reporters, right,
All right.
go into this thing, was he out of line? I don't disagree with what he said.
Um.
Is it do First Amendment rights apply when someone's trying to present the news?
I would, because I'm only gonna say what did he say this live on air? I thought he had said it in a tweet.
I would say
Um.
in the day and age and the culture that we're in right now, a tweet is the same as saying something live.
Yeah. Well, and I would, in my head, that would be that I don't disagree, right? Because if you work for any corporation at all, I mean, this is not exclusive to entertainment. They tell you that by putting yourself out there, that you are in effect representing your company. And so, I mean, even with this thing that we do, that's why I've been very, very like okay, that's why I use a handle. That's why anytime I post this, it's not on my personal page. I want this entire thing that we do, and we've talked about this, to remain separate from my personal life, because I don't want it to ever be misconstrued that I'm speaking for anybody else but myself. And I've said that a lot. So I would say that becomes even more difficult if your job is journalism, because by that regard, I mean, that's the only, like, that is his job.
It is his job. Again, I can't say this enough because I'm sure somebody's going to come back at me with it. I don't disagree with his assessment. What I find the argument to be weak to say, well, the White House didn't like it. I mean, how many crappy things were said about Obama and Biden by news
A lot.
people? And they were just like ducks. They just let that stuff roll off their
Right.
back, right? Now, the fact that they
Okay.
handled it doesn't mean that that's the only way to handle it. Again, I think this is a slippery slope. What is First Amendment? Do First Amendment rights apply when you're
Yeah. What? So the answer here is,
well, hang on,
go
you're
ahead.
working and representing this company. Yes, you always have First Amendment rights, but you're not always free from the consequences.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is that, like, in effect, he is he is exercising his First Amendment right, and the company is exercising theirs by letting him go.
And well, he's on suspension.
Let's
And
still.
it was a direct response to my favorite person's, Caroline Levitt's insistence, and that he was out of line, and how are they going to hold him accountable? Blah blah blah.
Right.
The interesting thing to me, uh, and I know this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but there was an excellent video that was pieced together talking about where Caroline Levitt said that that there's no place for hate in this administration, and literally clip after clip after clip after clip of Trump saying hateful things.
Yeah.
The cognitive dissonance between what is happening
But
and
but
how.
but mom, he was just joking.
Oh,
Yeah, he was.
your post about where you were talking about the Confederate flag, and that guy said, well, you just didn't understand the humor where Trump said the Confederate flag was the best thing ever.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. No, I think he was trying to say that his comment about how it was only 5 Alabamans, that I seriously responded to that, even though he was being sarcastic. And I'm like, I mean, I understood what you were doing, but you were trying to undermine that people do this. So anyway, it's. Yeah, but I mean, that's what you hear all the time. Trump will say some crazy, outlandish, heinous shit, and then they'll just be all like, "Yeah, but I mean, it's Trump, It's Trump. He says all kinds of crazy stuff."
This is that narrative fatigue. This is the normalization of erratic behavior. If Biden or Obama or if Harris had been elected and she did any of this shit. So what happens next? I mean, always in everything I've ever done, whether it was consulting or training or coaching or whatever. All right, so all this batshit crazy stuff is going on. What happens next? What do we do? How do we respond?
Yeah, that was one of the questions too that Kat asked, is like, okay, who holds him accountable? So the courts would be one piece of that, but it really is supposed to be Congress. They're supposed, like, if he oversteps, they're supposed to start having. I mean, they should start having emergency assemblies, and they should start talking again about articles of impeachment. Start walking through that. I mean, think about it like this. Do you remember whenever?
I see that happening just right away.
Just right now. I know, it's just right around the corner.
Doing it right.
But do you remember in South Korea, whenever the South Korean president tried to enact martial law, and then there's like they're
They drug him out. Didn't they like physically drag him out?
Yeah, they rapidly. They're not called Congress, but they rapidly assembled. I think it's a parliament, and they were like, "Yeah, he's gone. Right? We're all in agreement. Like, he's out because this is not okay." And then that was it.
This is the conundrum. This is a slippery slope. This is the the Republicans have considered and have said, Trump was, ordained by God to be the president. And I think the totality of the situation is difficult to wrap our brains around, but we literally have got 430 some people in office whose personal information has been compromised. There is a group of people who know every single fucking thing about these folks that's on digital. They know all their
Well,
money,
yeah.
they know all their
Ha-
bets, they know
have you
everything.
have you heard about you know who Peter Thiel? You understand Palantir? You know about all that stuff. So it's sorry. I
But there are so many things,
I
Aaron.
know, I know.
Exactly
I
what
just, I wanted
the
to.
thing.
No, I know, and so Peter Thiel is a guy that developed Palantir. Palantir is the program that Trump was using to, like, basically like analyze all of our data. Yeah.
Right.
And Peter Thiel, you can actually go and if you ever want to look him up, he's like a real big right winger. That guy.
I mean, I don't doubt it. And this is my point. I think that we fail to, no, not fail. I think that often we forget that all the data of all the Republicans who maybe want to stand up to Trump has been compromised. And so blackmail material galore, not to mention, I think
Oh yeah,
that they
I
know
remember about
they're
that.
going to be,
Teal funds Vans. I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
I think that we forget sometimes that um, I think these Republicans know that they're going to be replaced in the midterms, so they don't
Oh
give a.
man.
I don't
Sorry.
think they care.
I just had an
What?
explosive moment. Remember how I told you that maybe they're going to get Trump in and maybe the reason JD is his vice president is because they want to 25th Trump out.
Yeah,
How crazy. I mean, I don't. I'm not sure that's ever going to happen, right? It's just like a thing that I was like, this is a scary thing. How crazy is it that they're letting this escalate so that way Trump does push it too far, so that way they can kick him out, and then Vance becomes president.
no, I think that there's probably a longer plan. I mean, it's going to get crazy, and maybe JD Vance is going to come in as the savior of some kind. I don't know. It's scary all the way around
Yeah.
because the one thing that consoles me is Vance does not have the charisma. He does not have the cult power. I don't think that
No.
Trump has. For whatever reason, Trump has got that magnetism that he's chosen over his lifetime to use that superpower for evil. I don't think Vance has the same thing, but if they're going to use Trump to get them to a certain position where it doesn't matter if people like Vance or they
Yeah.
like him or not matter. So let's not forget, what can people do?
Yes.
We talk live calls all the time. We talk about resist bot. We talk about the 5501. Uh, we talk about the
Indivisible.
now, one thing I want to say is I had a conversation this week. Um, yeah, yeah, Kat makes a good point about JD, that he has the brain and the funders. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
disagree with. So here's something, if you're watching, you're like, holy shit, it's all on fire. What am I, what can I do here? Um, I'm gonna tell you, and I don't mean this frivolously, bake fucking cookies. Bake some cookies. Take them to your local Democratic office. Offer to make signs for a protest. If you can't do the things, you don't want to make a phone call. Go and offer to file. If baking is your thing, bake.
Or
If
go
if
canvas. I know for some people, one or two people I talked to said that they enjoyed canvassing because it allowed them to talk to people, like not
and
argue,
I'm
just
Yeah, hand stuff out. I mean, card campaign, print things out, leave them at the laundromat, the bulletin board at the grocery store.
mhm.
I think that we have to, at this point, we're in overload. We're drinking water through a fire hose. We're scared. I know I've had a moment of, anxiety just because all my, all my friends and family, not all of them, but a lot of my friends and family are back in the US,
Mhm.
and some of them in LA right now. So it's scary, and we have to have action that will result in something. I am heartened. I am encouraged by the amount of resistance that we're seeing.
Right.
I'm actually going to pull up BBC again and see where we are with
Yeah, and I mean, the like
it.
I guess like we had said before, where that it was it was like watching people basically just that like that these protests are so real. I in my head, it's like the longer it's gone on, the little more bits of concern that I've had about it going from peaceful to not so peaceful. Um, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope that we can remember, if anybody in LA happens to see this, to just try and keep it not try, just keep it peaceful as possible, and don't allow them to have the justification to escalate it further.
Watching right now, and of course, lots of Mexican flags. I have no problem with that. There's, I don't see any rioting. I don't see any violence. I inadvertently watched a video yesterday where ICE I mean, ran over a guy
Yeah.
with a vehicle, and that was horrifying at best. I don't like that they're throwing things. Like right now, I'm watching them throw things. I don't like that. I think it's super important that nonviolent, because any violence is going to give them a reason to
Yeah.
enact martial law. But um,
Um, and you saw my argument today about the Mexican flag. I want to feed an argument real quick to everybody. Um, they're flying the Mexican flag because they're proud of their Mexican culture. It is, and conservatives being upset about it is because it's not a Confederate flag. That's why they're angry, because they're not waving Confederate flags because they're proud of Confederate culture.
it's not a U.S. flag. I mean, we've got, again, there is this purity culture on the right. Let's not overlook that.
Right.
That if it's not an American flag, and if it's not or a Confederate flag, well, then you're just wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, I had an interesting conversation with someone yesterday. We were, I know she and her husband are Trumpers, uh, and she's trying to walk this line, and they almost come full circle. So we were
I
talking.
always talk about that.
We were talking about pronouns. Didn't care what pronouns people use. Just tell me how I'm supposed to address you. It is confusing, the they them, but when we're talking face to face, well, it's you. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be that confusing. And then I mentioned that I had a friend whose husband almost lost his job because all he was asked to do was put he him on his email signature line. And he was like, that was the hill he was gonna die on,
It's
right?
such a bizarre one to
I
choose.
thought, uh, what? I mean,
They're not asking you to put they them on there, right? They're not asking you to put.
you're asking him to put whatever pronouns he wanted, not he wanted to put they them. He was a cis guy, and they wanted him to put he him. So
Sorry,
anyway,
my brain is like, oh.
I know that it wasn't that he was a cis guy, and they were just saying
Right.
put he him. So she was like, well, I just can't believe that they were forcing him to do it. And I'm like, hang on, you just said it was okay that people could do whatever they wanted. They weren't forcing him to claim anything that wasn't his. So almost came full
We
circle.
almost reached it. Almost got
Well,
there.
but
I mean, in my mind, the reason
people will die on her.
yeah, it's so that like I'm just flabbergasted. Because it would be the reason it drives me crazy is because the claim that there, I guess, would be is, well, that is a violation of my First Amendment right. It's like, it's not. It's company policy. That's nothing to do with your rights. Like people always get these things kind of misconstrued.
How does it violate your?
Because he doesn't want to do it. He shouldn't have to do it if he doesn't want to do it. That's a violation of his.
He doesn't have to do it. He can go find a job somewhere where he doesn't have to do
They,
it. If it's okay, if it's okay for ABC to fire somebody for doing this, that I'm sure that's a false equivalency.
It is, but it's not far off from being similar though. Like it's just companies have policies, and
we're talking, they can use whatever pronouns they want. Just tell me how you want to be referred to. But he shouldn't be forced to claim his cis profile. What?
I mean,
if you force people to come out at work.
Yeah, almost. We almost got there.
Again, I don't know, how could you force someone?
Yeah.
I guess you could force someone to list, like if it was a trans person who was presenting female, but you wanted them to put he him. because at that moment, physically presenting
Yeah,
as a male.
they're more masculine. Yeah, I mean it's that, it's like
This is what kills me. Can you imagine what the world would be like if all this energy spent on hating people who have a different skin color, or they don't, you don't like their pronouns, or you're really concerned about what's in their pants, versus the pedophiles who are actually abusing children. Um, what could we do? What could we accomplish? What kind of a world could we live in if we were focusing
Oh,
on?
and it's that's the same argument they use. If you leftists weren't, if you people on the left weren't so obsessed with with being with protecting the transgender people and protecting all the minorities, then we would just be so much better off. Like it's
Oh, my favorite is the argument about how we can't keep giving the immigrants all these benefits because we need to be giving them to American citizens. And I'm like, you just fucking voted. You're trying to take like $800
I
billion.
hate that talking point so much.
Like, are you kidding me right now?
That was like
Okay.
whenever.
Oh, I thought something was happening.
Oh yeah,
They're just holding the line.
yeah, and it's the yeah, I've been clicking over to the New York Times Live just to see what's going
I'm
on.
so jealous. I've got the Guardian. You've got New York Times. I think Kat's got the Atlantic. So between the three of us, I just
Knowing
can't.
this,
I can't afford all of it, right?
yeah.
Okay, so we've been on about an hour, just dribbling on about this, that, and the other. Is there any? I mean, there's so much. I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
I
it's
can
like that
see why some of these shows go on
yeah,
for.
because you can really talk about it, and I mean, who knows? Maybe someday we'll expand. We'll start earlier so we can go longer. We'll sort it out we'll sort it out.
I never am opposed to us talking longer.
Right.
There's so much to talk about,
Yeah,
right?
like what, yeah. Where do we draw the line? I mean, and we really hit on our topic today. I know there are some wins this week because I was watching a few of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And again, I'll post the wins in the on the thing. We did have some good wins. Let me see if I can find them. Now, I will say I've got wins from May 26th to June 6th because I kind of sucked at sending them to you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get him in there. I mean,
Well,
I know off the
we
top of my head I guess it depends on how you look at it, but the breakup we touched on it, but the breakup is, no matter how you look at it, it's a win for all of us, because if they're split, then it's gonna split that base.
Let me tell you again, I hate to keep pulling this card, but I don't really hate to. As a retired behaviorist,
Yeah,
once a narcissist breaks with somebody, it's broken.
right.
The digs will continue forever. I did notice that Musk deleted a lot of his stuff, but I think that's because Trump played a card maybe he didn't expect him to play by saying we're going to pull. And that's typical narcissist. He forgot that Trump could pull the
Yeah.
contracts. So he's deleted all of his posts and
Yeah,
blah,
and
blah, blah.
I meant to go and look into that because I'm not sure that he can just pull it like that, because the funding is done by Congress.
Hang on.
He could make it a big pain in the ass, right? But
Yeah, but he's pulled. I mean, think of all the funding he's frozen for legitimate things that were approved by Congress.
yeah, but I mean, as I recall, some of that, a lot of that has been overturned by the courts too, right? And Congress stepping in. Yeah, I know. I understand. Yeah, I can understand why. I guess I can understand why Elon, because he wouldn't want that headache of having to like go through the due process of getting it unfrozen. But
yeah, I'm trying to remember the language you used in our text conversation. Oh, you're trying to present a balanced perspective.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's true. You're presenting absolutely that there is a process, but so I will say that they're doing the House Democrats have started a fight back tour. I think that's pretty cool.
yeah.
We're going to be doing 11 town halls in red states.
Yeah, I really like whenever they do the town halls, because like my representative, he'll show up for I think I told you he showed up for a Chamber of Commerce meeting But he won't
But
show.
what
But he won't show up for the town halls.
right? Um, let's see. Democrats had a good night in South Carolina on June 2nd. That they were winning across the board by anywhere from 40 votes all the way up to 78% of the vote. And in Mansfield, Texas, the Democratic mayor won, Mayor Evans, he won again, and there was a runoff between a couple of folks, and I'm not going to say the good guy won, but the better candidate won, who definitely is the other candidate. Her and her family's deeply involved with a Republican state senator, and uh, not my favorite senator for sure. So there's lots of wins this week. We're going to post them. I want to also point out that the Supreme Court made a decision that there were 500,000 Venezuelan immigrants that could be deported. Venezuelan immigrants?
They've been actively going after Venezuelan immigrants just
Okay.
because of the I don't remember how it's like the Venezuelan gang.
The gang. But here's the thing. The court ruled that the current administration could go after them. That doesn't feel like a win, but I'm going to present it as one because that's how due process works.
Right.
The Supreme Court makes a decision. I don't like it. I didn't like it. But that's how it works. They've made decisions I adored, but they've made a decision here I didn't like. But that doesn't mean it's the wrong one. That just means I don't like it.
Right.
So I think we also have to celebrate when the process works, even if we don't like the answer.
Right. Yeah, that's like today somebody was talking about how because I don't know if you saw Elon Musk is talking about funding Democratic people now.
We need to talk about that because I got into some hairy discussions because I think you should take the fucking money.
Yeah. 1,000%. Like
1,000%. If he wants to give you the money, you take the money.
it.
You just don't do. I mean, there is no such thing as clean money.
Right.
I mean, I was literally having to go toe to toe with people who are like, this is that purity testing. Oh, it's the principle of the thing.
Well, no, because there can't be that. There's not. And whenever it comes to political donations, there's everybody will say, oh, it's Trump. Musk will want something. Like, I mean, that would be illegal. I mean, maybe, but.
You can shit one hand and want in the other, but the thing is there is no clean money. If it's the peacock farmers of America and they give you money, and they're going to want you to vote for them in a way that benefits them.
Right.
Every dollar that comes in is got some taint to it.
Yeah. The thing though that at least for me that made me go, okay, fuck that, was then Trump was saying is if he gives any money to to Democrats, I'm gonna he's gonna regret it, and that's the thing where it's like I think back to that saying that's like I may not like what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. It's like Elon Musk can give his money to whoever the fuck he wants, and nobody is like the president of the United States is the last person to be like he better not.
Well, and the whole argument just reveals the crass base nature of the person who was elected. And I thought it was hilarious that the guy who was arguing with you today was talking about 70 million Americans, loved blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
did you see what that was in response to? I don't know if you, I was like, what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
I swear I have ceased to desire to invest time discussing, arguing, debating things with MAGA because the minute you present something that they have to cite their sources or they have to present a logical argument, they ghost you.
Yeah, and their arguments, I mean, you saw today, their logic, not all of them, but a lot, like the logic that they present sometimes is pretty easy to break down and kind of refute. But for me, I think we talked about this, like, yeah, what I posted was pretty, I mean, it was by design meant to be like inflammatory. It was meant to incite a reaction. And so I got a reaction, and I'm totally fine. I'm actually fine with with name calling. I'm fine with slinging shit as long as we're actually attacking arguments.
Making forward progress with the,
yeah, like if as long as we're actually engaging in with the points that are being raised. And
right.
That's where I was like, I'm so like, you're not engaging with anything I'm saying. Like, this is moot.
Again, it's rage baiting, and I think you're.
I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not going to say that it's not rage baiting. It's just rage baiting the other way.
You're rage baiting, and the person's coming in angry, and you're like, well, if they're mad about what I said, it's their fault.
No,
and I'm like,
no. I'm not saying it's their fault, but the problem is that he wasn't actually engaging with my argument at all.
Wait a minute. You did.
No, I didn't. I said if they come in angry, they've already lost. I didn't say that it wasn't my fault.
Here's what you said. If you're coming into a debate angry, you've already lost.
That's what I said. I didn't say that. I didn't say it wasn't my fault. I said that it's.
You know what? I think we probably should wrap it up, but I do want to talk more about purity testing, specific examples. I want to talk about, hell yes, take money from Elon Musk. Take the money and then say, fuck you. You know, I'm not going to do it.
Steve Miller Band song, Take the Money and Run?
Take the money and run. You know, the other thing that I think is super important, though, is why are we purity testing everything instead of looking at outcomes?
Yeah.
And then when we look at outcomes, it's not good enough. You didn't do it right. You didn't do enough. I mean, if I see any more like the Democrats saying, hey, we united and we voted against this thing, and they're like, well, that's just the bare minimum. It's almost like the husband, you know, the wife bitches about, you never do the laundry, you never do the dishes. She gets home from work, he got home early, he did the laundry and the dishes, and she's like, well, it's the least you could do. I'm real motivated to do that again.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, yeah, I guess just because I like to summarize back around to it, 5 calls, resist bot, 50-50, all of it. Just those are active ways to engage in. Like Mom says, it doesn't.
We have links to all of those on the show page.
Yeah.
And if you honestly reach out, if you can't figure out what to do, reach out. We'll give you ideas, but doing something. If you're just baking cookies and taking them to the Democrat office.
Yeah, we're both on Threads. We're both on Blue Sky. I'm on X. Don't yell at me, but I made a Truth Social as well.
I have a Truth, so I may have had.
But if you reach out to me on there, I'm gonna have some questions. But no, I'm jokes aside.
Well, listen, you have to know what
Facebook. You're way more active on Facebook than me.
All right, let's wrap this up. I think we did good. Always a pleasure to visit about all the things. And until we get together again, friends, bye for now.
Recording stopped.